Hey players, I'm here with Joze Piranian, who is a lifelong stutterer and on the quest to confront his fears one stage at a time through public speaking and stand-up comedy. He shares his tales of overcoming adversity with people worldwide to motivate them to face their fears, overcome their obstacles, become the best versions of themselves, and fulfill their true potential.
This is the Joze Beats, you're watching the Joze Beat.
Hi, Josh. Hi, everyone. Woo- woo- By the way, your internet connection is absolutely fine for everyone who is listening. I'm the one who is stuttering, which is a smooth segue into the first question. The thing we're gonna talk about is how to deal with having a speech impediment or being different, so to speak, as a teenager, to not allow it to affect your self-confidence, how you interact with the world. And then I'll happily share some of my own experiences, insights, and a bit of my journey.
Absolutely, man. And I'm excited to hear your story. Looking up online and seeing all the amazing things that you've done, the cool places you've spoken at. You've spoken at TED and a bunch of other awesome places. You do stand-up comedy. And I think, one thing I've heard a lot from my audience is there's a bunch of different people that do deal with different issues that they feel makes them feel insecure, holds them back, stuttering being one of them. And I definitely wanted to kind of tackle that today and to really dive deep into what it's like to live with stuttering, to experience it, and how someone who is dealing with it and having kids in school make fun of them or just encountering normal challenges in life can kind of manage it and just live life happily and pursue their dreams. So for yourself, I'd like to know, how did you first feel when you kind of discovered you stuttered? Was it something you were born with? Was it something you developed later in life?
Great question. I've always had a stutter ever since I was 2 or 3 years old. I would say in school, it definitely was a difficult experience for me, even though uh, e- e- even though I wouldn't say I was heavily bullied, I would I would definitely say I felt painfully insecure every day at school, and the other students would have reactions and make certain comments about how I spoke that would definitely affect my self-esteem pretty drastically. So it is a really tough experience growing up. I can imagine for most people with a speech impediment or stutter or anything that makes them different in a visible way, since in school conformity is the name of the game, and when you do something that is extremely different, it's stands out in not the most positive kind of way.
Yeah, I think especially for young kids that are in the process of discovering themselves, there is definitely a need to want to be accepted by others, you know? So conforming is kind of what you tend to do so that you don't stand out, so you don't get made fun of, so you don't, you're not the oddball out. And I think if there's something about you that stands out on its own that you didn't actively say, I'm going to dress different or act different, you might sometimes feel like, like you're at victim to that. Like, I didn't choose this, but this is kind of the life that I lead. And I think for a lot of young kids too, they don't really understand that, you know? So we don't always have that much exposure to people that are different from us, that encounter different obstacles in life. So sometimes it can be challenging and even kind of awkward for us when we encounter someone that's different in some way and we don't know how to approach it or how to talk to them in some kind of way. Did you experience that a lot growing up, where people felt kind of awkward, they didn't know how to approach conversations with you, or they were nervous about it in some way?
Definitely. So what I've realized later in life is that most of how people react to something a bit different, like a stutter, stems out of being nervous and reacting because you don't know how to react. Now, if you're a child or a teenager and you're trying to talk to someone and then they laugh or they look away or they giggle, then you will probably interpret that to mean I am not good enough, I am inferior, I am weird, I don't belong. When what's actually happening is that the other people simply don't know how to react to something that is unusual. So today, every time I meet someone new, it'll be the first thing I bring up pretty informally and casually. And I wish I knew this when I was in high school or even younger, to just bring it up as a non-taboo topic of, hey, just so you know, I have a stutter. You'll hear me repeating some sounds. That's just how I speak. And something as simple as that can transform people's reactions from confusion or laughter to just a reaction of, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we're very nervous about how people are going to react when we share something deep and personal with them that we're experiencing. Like you said, we're afraid that they're going to laugh or they're going to feel awkward, but it's usually when they're kind of out of the loop and they don't know what's going on that they tend to react nervously and awkwardly. So, sometimes being transparent, just being honest with people about what your experience is like or what you're going through or whatever situation you're in can help make things so much more smoother and easier when you do communicate with them. Now, for yourself, as you were growing up, you mentioned that there were difficulties that you faced where other kids would say things or laugh and stuff. What age would you say you started to feel more confident in yourself and start to say, hey, this is something I want to actively work on approaching and being, straightforward about rather than maybe being nervous and talking about it?
I would say it happened. Oh, and I, I forgot to mention that I'm using a breathing technique to, well, this is actually part of my answer. I'll just start answering right away. So the first time I felt a bit more confident is when I was 16, maybe. I went to this summer school program at Phillips Academy in Andover, near Boston for about a month, and it it was my first time away from home in a brand new environment. In the first day, e- everyone in the dorm had to introduce themselves. And I was like, this is your chance to reinvent yourself and to address the fact that you have a stutter right away, as opposed to trying to hide it by speaking the least amount possible, which had been how I lived most of my life. So it's my turn. I I remember saying, "Hi everyone, I'm Jose, and just so you all know, I speak like shit." I mean, at the time, it was the phrase that came to mind. It's it's not how I express it nowadays, but in that moment, it felt very liberating to just say it and then explain I have a speech impediment. And this was the first time I felt the power of simply disclosing and letting everyone know that the reason why I sound di- different is a speech impediment. The After that, though, I went home and I went back to some old ways until I joined this speech therapy program called the Maguire program in England, and this is where I learned this breathing technique to control my stuttering. It was a pretty huge step. But after that, I went to university in Montreal, but I went back to some old ways. My first 2 years, I even asked all of my professors to exempt me from all presentations. I I, I went back into these feelings of feeling so insecure and self-conscious and socially anxious and so on, until in my third year, I think I joined this group called Toastmasters to work on public speaking and to just do the thing that I feared the most. And obviously, from having joined Toastmasters, things have evolved pretty insanely since.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at all that you've accomplished online, it's amazing. One thing that you did mention that I'd love to get a little bit more detail on, you mentioned kind of using breathing techniques to help you. Are there any kind of specific breathing techniques that you would recommend for someone who's watching this video who maybe deals with a similar issue and maybe isn't seeking treatment or help in any way, but they're just looking for some kind of small tidbits of advice?
Absolutely. So the technique that I learned was on that program, which is a program that was created by some guy who has a stutter in California, and since it has expanded quite drastically all over the world, and every member on that course is someone with a stutter who, through these techniques, have managed to acquire a certain degree of control. Now, aside from that, things that have helped me personally are, one, not avoiding any words or sounds. So if you want to say a word and you have a stutter, a natural tendency is to think about other similar words that might come out easily. But the problem with this approach is that you end up developing so much fear around these words or sounds. So then every time you avoid them, the fear goes up and up and up. So one advice or one strategy rather is to say everything you want to say, even if you will stutter. Two is, if you feel like a block is happening, to just stop it. So stop the production of that sound. Breathe once again, like what happened now, and say the word again. So one tendency of people who stutter is to over-invest in the first attempt. So it is best to accept that, hey, sometimes this first attempt will not work out. Just release it, and then with a new breath, try saying it again.
Yeah, and I think it's so powerful too. Whenever you get caught up in what you're going to say, to just stop, take a breath, and then just reapproach it. And I think that's a strategy we can use for so many things in life. When we feel overwhelmed, when we feel nervous, breathing is such an important piece of communication. And we forget sometimes that you need to breathe. You need to stop and take a breath sometimes whenever you want to do anything. But yeah, I'm really curious to know, like, as you move forward and as you do more public speaking events and stuff, what are kind of your goals? Like, how do you see yourself being a part of this world and changing it for the better?
What I had said in my talk at TEDx, or generally in a lot of these speeches I deliver, I say everyone has a stutter. I I and some other people happen to stutter when we speak, but everyone has this thing that holds them back in life. My objective is to share this story of confronting fears on as many stages worldwide to get as many people as possible who stutter literally and those who stutter metaphorically to overcome this block. I'll share a short story that I think really sums this up beautifully. After I had given one of my talks, this friend of mine reaches out on Facebook. Well, at the time, she was more of an acquaintance. And she says, "Hey, I watched your talk, and it really inspired me. When I was a child, I loved to dance more than anything in the world. As soon as I became a teenager, she said she became increasingly insecure about her own body and the way that she looks. And in parenthesis, if the average guy struggles with things like confidence, I'd say body image is definitely a prevalent issue among women, right? So she said that as a result of these negative feelings, she completely stopped dancing. And then she said that after having watched my video, she felt inspired to fight those demons. And about a month later, I received this invitation from her on Facebook. It was to a dance recital that she was performing at. I remember going there, like I had just landed from some comedy shows in New York. I went straight from the airport to her performance, And when I saw her on that stage so free, I literally had tears. I was in complete disbelief that something I had shared could have that impact on another human life. So to sum this up, my objective is to really ex, 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 exponentially maximize the frequency of this type of stories by speaking at universities, at conferences, at schools, at companies.
That's awesome, man. I totally support your motive there. I think it's so important what you're doing, and I think that you're helping so many people along the way. There's one subscriber of my channel in particular. His name is Astatine, and he was the one who continuously posted on my videos, "Hey Josh, can you do a video on this? Do a video on this." So I'm happy that I could bring someone like you on to really, really kind of break down your experience and how inspirational you can be to someone else. I think it's motivating to me too. And just thinking about him in mind, I don't really know how old he is, but I'm assuming he's around my average viewer's age. What would be one piece of advice you would give to him if he, like, I think he desperately needed to hear from someone who was going through a similar experience? What would be that one piece of advice as someone who's older, who's dealing with it, that you'd give to someone who's younger, who's just coming into themselves?
I I would say we have to own what makes uh, us unique. Self-confidence and being different are not mutually exclusive. And that's something I was simply unaware of growing up. I I held these I held these self-limiting belief that because I am different, I can't be confident, I cannot talk to women, I can't be cool, I can't do all these things. And the truth is, once we accept uh, ourselves and treat the stuttering more with a more light-hearted approach of just, hey, just so you know, guys, I happen to stutter a bit. I would even recommend joking about it. So when I do stand-up comedy, half of my material is about having a stutter. And when you joke about something that in the past had made you feel super insecure, you can flip that script entirely, and you go from being a victim of your circumstances to being the author of your destiny. So much of human existence and fulfillment comes from interacting and connecting with other people, it would be a complete tragedy and a waste of human potential if someone allowed the thing that makes them different to rob them from having those connections. I'm of the belief that your destiny will literally be a function of, to some extent, of how many times you say hello to people you don't know. With every new interaction, you create this new possibility. So, hi Estetine, I really recommend accepting your stutter, joking about it, casually bringing it up when you meet new people, to address it right away with confidence, to quickly move on from it, and accept that if you face this discomfort, so many awesome things can and will happen.
Definitely, man. You hit such a powerful note there. I think each and every single one of us, are special in our own way. We bring something unique to the table. And it's so important for people to realize that what they may see as limiting really is just an opportunity for them to learn more about themselves and to find ways to interact with the world around them without letting that limiting belief kind of hold them back. So, hey, this was an amazing chat. I'm so happy that I got to bring you on. Thank you so much for being here. To everyone here, I'm going to link up his video and his channel over here so you can go check out the rest of his content. I'm going to put all the things he mentioned down in the description below. Thank you so much, Joze, for jumping on here. And guys, I will catch you next time. As always, love and peace.